Awesome. Welcome everyone to the second webinar for the North American 3Rs Collaborative's Compassion Fatigue Resiliency Program. I'm excited to see everyone joining us today. This will be recorded as indicated and shared. However, don't worry if you turn on your screens. Heather's assured me that your videos won't be recorded. Have to worry about that. Chat will also not be recorded, but if you want to get started by popping in the chat, introducing yourself, we always like to make these webinars feel a bit more interactive where possible. So I'm really excited for today's webinar. Last webinar, we talked about an overview of compassion fatigue, what it was, basic strategies, what's going to happen. And today we're really focused on one particular strategy, which is really good, not just for compassion fatigue resiliency, but also our overall mental health. And we have the lovely Dr. Heather Hersh presenting today. Dr. Heather Hersh is a psychologist and a well-being consultant and coach. She did her undergraduate studies at the University of Pennsylvania and has her doctorate from the California School for Professional Psychology. With over 20 years of experience as a licensed psychologist educator, Dr. Hersh brings warmth, compassion, and wisdom to help people move forward with their lives. Dr. Hersh has an independent consultant business, Thrive Well-Being, that she founded in 2019. And with this organization, she's helped many organizations and companies improve their team's well-beings and help them combat compassion, fatigue, and burnout. She does have a specialty in the lab animal community, which we love. And so she in the past has facilitated discussion groups and led workshops on wellness issues such as work-life balance, mindfulness, stress management, and of course, compassion fatigue. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Hersh.
Thank you, Megan. That was a really lovely introduction. And hello, everyone. I'm really happy to see you again. If any of you want to share your video, I would love to see your faces, especially for the second half when we're going to do some fun stuff. As Megan mentioned, I do have a specialty in working with lab animal professionals. And so while I'm a psychologist and a well-being consultant, I do have a lot of awareness of the issues that lab animal professionals face. I just want to briefly mention why. It's a little unusual sometimes. My husband's a professor at Penn and he does brain research. So I've heard a lot about issues with research with animals over the years. I've worked with lab animal professionals at Penn and at other institutions. And for years, I also worked at academic institutions. So I worked with a lot of scientists and researchers and vet students, learning about the issues they face. So I have a real awareness of the pressures you face at work, the difficulties you may have talking about your work in public, and the difficult situations you deal with professionally. I also have a real respect for the work you all do and how you contribute to the big picture daily. So thank you for all your hard work. I love talking about mindfulness, and I'm really excited to be here to be talking about this with you because I think it's so important and so beneficial in everyday life. It can also be very helpful and very protective against burnout and compassion fatigue, which are issues that you and your colleagues deal with. Before I start talking, though, I was really curious to see where all of you are from. There's so many of you. I'm in Philly. I know Megan is in Denver. Just curious, if you wouldn't mind throwing in the chat, where are you? Seattle, Ontario, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Michigan, Waltham, Massachusetts, and Boston, Gaithersburg, Maryland, Oregon, San Francisco, Phoenix. Wow, you're all over. Jacksonville, Cambridge, Massachusetts, Seattle. Awesome. Welcome, everyone, wherever you're from and whatever time you are in right now. All right. So I want to share my PowerPoint and get started to show you what we're going to be doing today. Screen. Great. Okay. So let me show you the agenda, what we're going to be doing today. I want to first just discuss briefly what mindfulness is. Then we're going to talk about the general benefits and benefits for lab animal professionals, and that'll take about the first half of this workshop. Then we're going to do 3 mindfulness exercises to see ways that you can easily incorporate this into your daily life. I want you to leave with 1 or 2 things that you're going to begin trying tomorrow, as I do always in my workshops. I really try to make them really pragmatic. So let's talk about what mindfulness is. What is it? It's used everywhere. It's in this cartoon, which I love. I still read cartoons and comics. This is Pickles. And so I can't remember Mrs. Pickles' name, but she says, I'm trying to reduce my Christmas stress. This was from December. By living in the moment. I read that most stress is either in the past or in the future, not right this very moment. So I'm trying to live in the moment. Are you living in the moment, Earl? And he says, nope, I'm living on a gorgeous beach in the Bahamas and you're blocking the sun. So I saw that, I just had to share it. So anyway, the first thing I want to ask you a few questions as we're going through, and use the chat feature. What images or associations do you have when you hear the word mindfulness? What comes to mind? Yoga. What else? Thoughtfulness. Peace, meditation, staying in the moment, nature, breathing, balance, being in a restful place, being thankful, communication. That's interesting. That's a nice one. Awesome. And so what do you think mindfulness means? If you have a sense that it means something different than some of these ideas or images we were just sharing, being present in the moment, being aware of your mind, being grateful. Nice. Presence, being aware of others around you, having centering thoughts. Nice, nice. You guys hit a lot of them. Let me close that. So let's talk a little bit about what it does mean. I mean, I think you all have a good sense of it. I'm going to just explain it a little bit more. So mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally, having curiosity, having acceptance, having an open mind, just being open to what is within your mind, within your body, within your heart, and potentially with others as well. So there is a lot of power, a lot of importance in being in the present. I talk to my clients a lot about this, and I say the present is the most powerful place to be. And I say this because when our minds are in the past, this kind of goes with the Pickles cartoon. When our minds are in the past, we tend towards depressive symptoms, regret, thinking about things we remember, we wish had been different. When our minds go into the future, thinking about what is coming up or what we're planning or what we're worrying about, we tend towards anxiety and stress. When we're in the present, when we're in the moment, it's when we are our most grounded, our most centered. And there are 2 different kinds of mindfulness, formal mindfulness and informal mindfulness. And I just want to explain them briefly. Formal mindfulness is often what people think of when they think of mindfulness. It's someone who has a meditation practice, someone who does mindfulness meditation, someone who took an MBSR course, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBCT, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, or MSC, mindful self-compassion. These are all really wonderful, sort of more formal trainings that you can take in mindfulness. And if I kind of wet your whistle in what I'm talking about today and you want to explore this more, I highly, highly recommend you look for one of these kinds of courses where you live. They're usually a little bit of an investment. They're usually about 8 weeks long, and you go for about 2.5 hours once a week for these 8 weeks. And you practice different forms of mindfulness daily during this 8-week period. And there's usually a 1-day silent retreat on a weekend. And that is sort of a more formal mindfulness. But what I want to talk to you about today is an informal mindfulness. And this is when we can bring mindfulness, bring awareness to just everyday activities like walking, brushing your teeth, washing the dishes, eating. We're going to practice this a little today. It can be practicing a pause to check in with yourself, to tune in. And you can do this emotionally. What am I feeling? Cognitively, what am I thinking? What's on my mind? Or physically, what am I feeling right now? Am I hungry? Am I tired? Am I tensing my muscles anywhere? We can also bring awareness in through our senses, and we're going to practice that today as well. Some experts believe that mindfulness works in part by helping people to accept their experiences, including painful emotions, rather than reacting to them with aversion or avoidance. And there are so many benefits to mindfulness. I'm just going to touch on them briefly, a bunch of them briefly. Mindfulness gives us a feeling of peace, calm, self-confidence. It leads to less worrying, better concentration, clearer and more effective thinking, and more resilience and self-awareness. It also can improve our memory and our focus. When we are doing just one thing at a time and we're in the present, our memory and our focus are much better. Recent surveys show that distress in individuals pre-pandemic was pretty high, and during the pandemic has just gotten worse. Stress has been off the charts in a lot of people over these last few years. There was a survey done just before the onset of COVID, like January 2020. And this survey found that nearly 60% of workers said that stress had brought them to tears at work. 60%. And that was a 23% increase from the year before. Another survey was done shortly after the onset of COVID, and it found that almost 90% of workers reported having moderate or extreme stress. About 70% of professionals said this is the most stressful time I've ever had in my entire career. And 43% of people said, I've become physically ill from work-related stress. Also, sustained attention has just gone down a lot during the pandemic for a variety of reasons as well. Mindfulness can reduce stress. It can help people feel more engaged in their lives and more content. And many, many studies have shown it decreases stress and anxiety and depression. It can also improve our well-being. Increasing your capacity for mindfulness supports a lot of attitudes that contribute to a satisfied life. Being mindful makes it easier to savor the pleasures in life as they occur. It helps you become more engaged in the activities that you're doing, and it creates a greater capacity to deal with adverse events. By focusing on the here and now, a lot of people who practice mindfulness find that they're less likely to get caught up in the worries about the future or regrets about the past. They're less preoccupied with concerns of success and self-esteem, and they're better able to form deep connections with others, which is really such a foundation for our well-being. It can also help thinking and job performance. There was a study done with soldiers, and they were taught mindfulness. And the study found that they had better memory, better task performance, and better decision-making under stress. And I know you're not soldiers, but it sometimes feels very applicable to being a lab animal professional, that kind of pressured, stressful situation that you work in at times. It's a really important concept that you only can do your personal best when you focus on one task at a time. And when we do something mindfully, that's what we do. I want to briefly just mention a few studies that involve mindfulness and veterinarians or vet students. A 2017 study examined the efficacy of mindfulness techniques that was taught to veterinary students. So in this study, researchers found that students who regularly engaged in mindfulness techniques had fewer symptoms of depression and anxiety than students who were not using mindfulness. It seemed to help lower stress, depression, and anxiety in veterinary students. Another study was done in 2019, and vet students were taught were walked through deep breathing exercises prior to their surgical labs. These exercises were found to improve the students' mood and to decrease their salivary cortisol levels, which, as you know, indicate decreased stress. So they had better well-being prior to surgery. And this is only a good thing. It usually is found to reduce errors, and it can help their patients as much as it actually helped them. Another study that I like was done in 2013 at Carnegie Mellon. And so participants went through an MBSR course, and then they threw them in an MRI scanner. What they found is after taking this course, participants' amygdala was shrunk and their prefrontal cortex had thickened. So in other words, the participants' connection to their fight or flight response got weaker as their attention and concentration improved. And this seemed to correlate with the amount of practice that people were doing. Mindfulness also improves physical health. Scientists have shown that it improves, it can help with heart disease, lower blood pressure, reduce chronic pain, improve sleep, and alleviate gastrointestinal difficulties. And finally, and very relevant for you, there are a lot of benefits for mindfulness helping with burnout and compassion fatigue. There are over 1,000 papers that look to the benefits of mindfulness, and there's been a strong link to the reduction of compassion fatigue with mindfulness course participants. They report more empathy and less distress from the frequency of interactions surrounding death. So a lot of studies have shown that mindfulness courses decrease burnout and improve well-being among a broad range of healthcare providers. One study, for example, that was published somewhat recently found that participants' heart rate, blood pressure, and their burnout inventory scores were lower after 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation. So these are benefits. Briefly, there are a lot of them. I want to ask you, if you're willing to share in the chat feature, where, how, or when do you find that you're in the present or you're in the moment? In nature, fireside, skiing, when you're outside for a run on the beach. I love these. Acrobatic yoga, that is awesome. Walking my dog. Listening to the birds, washing the dishes, walking, riding my horse, kitty snuggles, climbing. I love this. You all have some really great things you do to keep you in the present. Running by lakes when you're with someone you love, really being in the present. At the trout stream. Awesome. And for you, what do you find gets in the way of you being more mindful in your everyday life? What are some of the barriers, or what are some of the things that take you out of the present, out of the moment? Exhaustion, kids' crazy schedule, running from thing to thing to thing, constant thoughts, too much on my plate, everyday tasks, problem solving so many things at once, things to do, things I have to do next, children, bureaucracy, social media, email. Yes, I'm going to get to that in a second. Feeling overwhelmed, work. Yeah. We lead really busy lives. We have so much on our plates at home and at work, and it is very easy to come out of the present, to be out of the moment. And hopefully, as I'm talking about these ideas, as we're practicing today, it'll start having you pay attention a little bit more and try to bring more of this mindfulness into your life, into your present. I love how someone mentioned, their cell phones essentially. Before we do get to our exercises, I do want to briefly mention cell phones. Oh, wait, I want to grab, where are those 2 books? I wanted to show you all 2 books. Oh, here they are. Okay. I meant to grab these ahead of time. So I have been thinking and reading so much about the negative impact of our screens lately, especially cell phones. I have read this book, How to Break Up with Your Cell Phone by Catherine Price. She's a science writer, actually here in Philadelphia. I kind of think she's awesome. And then this other book she wrote called The Power of Fun, How to Bring More Fun into Your Life. She has a whole 30-page synopsis in this book about cell phones and the negative impact on us and how it affects our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health. It's a pretty awesome synthesis of all that's known about this right now. And so when we are on our phones, we are not in the present. We are not engaged in our lives, and we are not paying attention to the people and events right in front of us. Our phones take up huge amounts of time in our day, time we could be spending on other things that actually add to our lives and our well-being. Things like that you all mentioned that help you be in the present, all those really wonderful things you do for yourself. And the notifications on our phones, or as Catherine Price likes to call them, interruptions. These interruptions send off spurts of stress hormones in our bodies every time they go off. Every time your phone beeps or buzzes or vibrates, you get a release of cortisol. So please, if there's one thing, maybe hopefully more than one thing, but one thing you maybe take with you today, please turn off all your notifications. Or if you can't turn them all off, at least the ones that are not really urgent. You don't need notifications for the weather, for news, maybe for your email. There's a lot of things you don't need notifications on for. Increasingly, research is showing that our virtual lives are fragmenting our attention, creating attention confetti. We're being trained to jump from thing to thing to thing to thing. And then it makes it much harder for us to concentrate and attend and be mindful. We're training ourselves to do this. So think about that a little bit. And also, our social media consumption is detrimental to our mental health because it drives us to spend more and more time trying to be accepted and liked by others, as well as comparing ourselves to others' perfectly curated lives and images. Further, social media, email, and other apps are designed by really smart people to be addictive. A cell phone is akin to having a slot machine in our pocket that constantly feeds us intermittent reinforcement, which, as you know, is the most powerful form of reinforcement. We have learned to treat notifications, new text and emails, new likes on our posts as rewards. And these rewards lead to a release of dopamine, which then continues to make these apps more and more rewarding and addicting. And when we cannot use them, we have strong urges to check them. So those two books are great if you want to do some more reading. I am going to stop my PowerPoint and we're going to start practicing a little bit of mindfulness together, okay? So we're going to start with the raisin exercise. Again, if anyone is willing to put your camera on, that would be great. So this is the time to get your raisin or your piece of Easter candy or whatever it is you happen to have. I've got a raisin. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to practice eating mindfully, okay? Mindfully eating is when we are aware of our food, we're experiencing our food, we're tasting it, we're hearing it, we're feeling it, right? We're not on our phones, we're not reading, we're not watching TV. When we eat mindfully, you really experience the food more fully. Your stomach registers it's there, you experience fullness, satisfaction, it actually improves your digestion. After this workshop, I'm going to send Megan a one-page, just short work handout, just with reminders of some of the things I talked about today. And I also have a link on that handout for an article on intuitive eating that I think is really nice. So you'll be getting all that later. But anyway, let's eat our raisin. Not yet. Okay, so I want you to take your raisin. I know this is going to feel silly, but bear with me. Take your raisin, First, let's look at our raisin. I'm going to say raisin. I know you don't all have raisins, but anyway, look at your raisin. Just check out the colors, the patterns, the textures you can see. And feel your raisin. I'm gonna roll it around. Do you have a soft raisin? Do you have a squishy raisin? Is it a hard raisin? And listen to your raisin. Like if you roll it around near your ear, can you hear anything? I have a very quiet raisin today. I can't hear anything. But maybe you hear something. Sometimes I hear it. And smell your, have you ever smelled a raisin? Like smell your raisin. Do you smell anything? Okay. In a moment, I want you to put your raisin in your mouth, but I just want you to place it on your tongue. I don't want you to chew. Don't chew, okay? So put your raisin on your tongue. I can't talk and do this at the same time. So put your raisin on your tongue and feel it. And maybe you taste it a little bit, or maybe you, strangely enough, don't taste anything. And what do you feel if you like press the raisin between your tongue and against the roof of your mouth? And can you roll it around a little bit? What does that feel like? Okay, good. I know this feels maybe a little silly, but you're doing great. Now what I want you to do is I want you to chew slowly, chew the raisin. And I want you to just keep chewing until it's like kind of gone. And then you can swallow. And what do you taste? And are you salivating? Who knew you could chew a raisin this long, right? And when you've really chewed it, you can swallow. Okay. All right. I'm curious. Any reactions? What was that like? Any positive reactions, negative reactions? So Teresa, so someone said it tasted sweeter than I remember. What else did you notice? What else did you experience? More potent, more savory. The longer you chew, the more it tastes. Great. A lot of texture. It was sticky. It was kind of fun taking the time to smell. Someone had a chocolate chip and didn't realize how delicious it smelled. The smelling was great. Yeah. What we were doing was really slowing it down, really using our senses as we were eating. You eat every day, right? You have 3 meals. Hopefully you eat regularly, like 3 meals, and maybe you have a snack. We very often eat mindlessly. And sometimes it's really fun to eat mindlessly. I do it too. I love sitting on the couch sometimes and eating a bowl of popcorn or reading the newspaper while I eat my breakfast. But it's really something else to eat mindfully. And so I encourage you, if this was kind of interesting, I'm going to ask you all at the end to tell me like one thing you're going to do, one goal you're going to set for yourself. And this might be it. Maybe you decide I'm going to eat one thing mindfully each day, like one meal or one snack. I'm not telling you to eat everything mindfully, but there's something very powerful and really lovely about eating mindfully that we often miss out on. Great. I really appreciate all of your participation too. Thank you. Okay, so we're going on to the next thing. Belly breathing. I love belly breathing, and you will too, I'm pretty sure. This is a really helpful, powerful way to breathe. I'm going to teach you about belly breathing and how to do it, and then we're going to practice doing it together for a few minutes. So the first thing I want you to do is go ahead and take a nice deep breath. Okay? And notice where you feel movement. So just take a nice deep breath and exhale. Maybe take a second deep breath and exhale. Where do you feel movement? Now, some of you are going to feel movement in your shoulders. Some of you are going to feel movement with your chest. Some of you are going to feel movement in your stomach. You're going to feel movement in different places. So let's think a little bit about the anatomy of breathing. Now, I'm a psychologist. I'm not a lab animal professional, so I may have this anatomy a little wrong, but just go with it. Okay, so essentially when we breathe, our lungs fill with air, and then our diaphragm, which is below our lungs, takes the overflow. Now, some of you know this if you're singers, or maybe if you play a woodwind kind of instrument or a brass instrument. So the first thing I tell people is you don't need your shoulders to breathe. So if you felt your shoulders moving when you were breathing, you want to relax them. And trust me, I see a lot of people do what I call the stethoscope breath. And that is like that. I'm exaggerating a little, but I see that very often. So the first thing to know is you don't need your shoulders to breathe. The second thing is, if more of your movement was up here in your chest, we're going to want to lower that a little bit. So put your hand on your belly. So for me, it's between my bra and my belly button. So put your hand down there. And with your shoulders nice and relaxed, I want you to just gently breathe into your hand. So I'm curious if anyone wants to use the chat feature. How does that feel? What's that like for you to do that, to breathe in that way into your hand? Does that feel different than it felt a moment ago when you breathed? Does that feel any different? It's a deeper breath. Felt deeper. Good. For a lot of people, it can feel deeper, can feel calmer. Felt calmer. The deeper breath. Okay. So for a lot of you, it's feeling deeper, calmer, feeling more connected to your body. Yes, exactly. It's a more grounded, more centered, more calming breath. So what I want to have us do is practice belly breathing. We're going to do this for 3 minutes, which might sound very short, or it might sound very long. I'm not sure if you're going, that sounds really short, or if you're kind of freaking out that I'm going to have you belly breathe for 3 minutes, but we're going to do it. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to put both of your feet on the ground. This actually helps you ground yourself. So don't make sure your legs are uncrossed. I love having a couple conference rooms. I can see like all of you at one time, getting comfortable in your chairs, putting your feet on the ground. Good job. All right, so I want everyone to put your feet on the ground. Put your hands just someplace where it's relaxing and calming or comfortable, not like this. Remember to relax your shoulders. You don't need them to breathe. What we're going to do is, if you're comfortable closing your eyes, I like closing my eyes because it helps me feel to kind of block things out, and it helps me be more kind of tuned in and feel more grounded and centered. We're going to belly breathe for 3 minutes. And so what I want you to do is just pay attention to your breath. So feel it coming in, feeling your belly expand, and then feeling what happens as you exhale. Now, you might want to just pay attention to your breath as it goes in and out, or you might prefer just focusing on one point. So some people like picking like the inside of their nostrils or the tip of their nose. Some people like focusing on their belly, going out and coming back in. Whatever feels comfortable for you to try, that's what you're going to do. And your mind is going to start wandering 67 times in the next 3 minutes, because you're going to think about what's for dinner. You're going to think about how you're driving home. You're going to think about whatever. Every time you notice your mind wandering, just go, oh, my mind is wandering. No judgment, no anger, no frustration. Just go, oh, okay, that's awesome that you recognized it. And just bring your attention back to your breath. So we're going to do this for 3 minutes. I got my timer. Anyone have any questions before we practice this? Any questions about belly breathing? Nope. All right. So let me set my timer. We're going to do this for 3 minutes. I'm going to do it with you. So you're just going to hopefully keep your eyes closed so you don't watch me close my eyes, sit here for 3 minutes. And I will tell you when it's up. So may the force be with you. Let's go. Okay. When you're ready, open your eyes and come back into the room. Hi. So I am curious, what was that like? Good, bad, ugly? What was your experience, or what was your reaction? What was the breathing like, or what did 3 minutes feel like? Relaxing, went faster than you thought, exhausting, peaceful and fast, little hard, calming, relaxed and ready for a nap. Someone else thought it'd be longer, it went by quickly. So I'm curious, person who said it was exhausting, if you could say a little bit more what you mean. Someone said it was really difficult to try to focus on nothing. Someone else said it made me realize how much my mind is wandering. Yeah, some people, so I'm giving you different options, obviously, and because nothing works for everyone. Some people will really connect with this, and this is really, breathing is a very powerful way to ground and center yourself. But some people find themselves more anxious when they do breathing exercises and they need to do something physical. So there's nothing wrong if this works for you or if this doesn't work for you. So I want to just make sure I say that clearly. The person who said it was exhausting, did that just mean that you were really tired, or it was really hard to do this for 3 minutes? It's fine if you don't want to say anymore. That's totally fine. Okay. It was complicated. Say no more. I appreciate it. So here's the thing. I think belly breathing is really a very powerful, very useful tool. I highly encourage you to use this at least once a day. A great time to do this, a beautiful time to do this, is first thing in the morning. The way we start the day tends to be the way the day goes. So if you start by belly breathing, that's a lovely way to start your day. If you start your day by looking at your phone, as someone said, it's like having 100 people in your bedroom yelling at you. Think about it. So you could do this first thing in the morning. You could take a breathing break somewhere in the middle of the afternoon, maybe, or you could do it when you get home from work. Maybe this is a nice transition from work to home. If you're working out of home, not out of home. If you are not at home when you're working, is what I'm trying to say. Try it for 5 minutes. See how that goes. It gets easier the more you practice, like anything that you do, but it never will maybe be easy. I don't think anyone's minds do not wander and bounce around all the time. I know mine sure does, and I have been meditating now for years. So the other thing that you can do with breathing is during the day, now and then, check in with your breath, especially if you're feeling a little anxious or stressed. Ask yourself, like, where am I breathing right now? And if you notice you're breathing more up here, bring it more to your belly. The reason why I say this is because when we breathe more in our chest, that is a more shallow breath. If we're breathing more shallowly, we have to breathe more rapidly to get enough air in our bodies. A rapid breath is a breath that's going to promote anxiety. Like, think about hyperventilation. That is the penultimate shallow, rapid breath. So when you check in with your breath, am I breathing up here? Am I using my shoulders? If you are, bring it down to your belly. So I also encourage you to check in with yourself now and then throughout the day. See where you're breathing, okay? We have one more exercise to do. This is going to be using your senses, okay? This is a kind of a cool way to bring yourself into the moment using your 5 senses. It's called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by taking 3 nice belly breaths. We're going to breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. And then I'm going to talk you through the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 things you're going to do. So go ahead. Let's take 3 nice deep breaths in through your mouth, in through your nose, and out through your mouth. Okay. So first, I want you to acknowledge 5 things that you see around you. A pen, a spot on the ceiling, your friends. What are 5 things that you see around you? Now I want you to acknowledge 4 things you can touch around you. It could be your hair or your clothes, it could be the table, it could be the ground under your feet. What are 4 things you can touch right now or feel? Now I want you to acknowledge 3 things that you hear. It could be an external sound, it could be the air conditioning, could be my voice, could be something internal. Maybe your tummy is rumbling because you're hungry. What are 3 things you hear? Okay, now I want you to acknowledge 2 things you can smell. This one sometimes is a little tough. You may need to, if you're not on this workshop, you may need to go outside or walk in the hallway or go into the bathroom. Are you wearing perfume or body lotion? Is there a flower or some candle or something in your presence? Is there a pencil that you can smell? What are 2 things you can smell? May not work at the moment, but this is when you're doing this another time. And then acknowledge 1 thing you can taste. Now, for many of you, it might be your raisin or your Easter candy. But what does the inside of your mouth taste like? Does it taste like coffee? Does it taste like gum? Does it taste like what you ate for lunch? So this is the senses exercise, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is a really nice, easy way to ground yourself in the present. Another really simple exercise I'll take people through is what I call the present exercise. And that is when what you would do is you would name to yourself inside your head everything you feel right now, starting at your head and working your way down to your feet. And when I say everything, I mean the things that you're not paying attention to most of the time. So like, I feel my hair on my forehead. Where do you feel your clothes? Because you don't realize this, but you don't feel your clothes all over your body. Maybe you just feel your sweater on your arms, or maybe you feel your bra around the sides of your ribs, or maybe you just feel your pants on the tops of your thighs. So what do you feel with your body, with your hair, with your clothes, where you're standing or where you're touching a chair, where part of your body is touching another part of your body, where your feet are on the ground? And then also, are you hungry? Are you in pain anywhere? Is there any tightness? Just head to your toes. What is everything you feel? This is a really nice way to ground yourself in the moment by using the physical sense of sensation, of touch for yourself. And this is one I really like as well. I'm telling you through it about it because it's a little easier to do in person than virtually, but I just wanted to give you the idea of a second kind of senses exercise that you can use. So we've just done some nice examples, some nice exercises to show you how to bring informal mindfulness into your life. You can be using these daily practices to fold mindfulness into things you're already doing. So as I was saying, you can choose 1 thing to do mindfully each day. You can wash the dishes, which someone said, which I love doing. I love washing the dishes mindfully, or brushing your teeth, or showering, or taking a walk. Take a walk, take one of your walks during the day mindfully. Put your phone away, take your earbuds out, and really just engage with your senses to experience what's going on around you. Maybe you make a note on a sticky note, and you put it on your mirror so that you brush your teeth mindfully or you wash the dishes mindfully. But you can choose 1 thing to do mindfully each day. Very simple. You can eat 1 snack or meal mindfully each day. Really taste and experience your food. See how that affects your fullness, your digestion, the enjoyment of the food. You can belly breathe each day. Do it for 5 minutes. Again, maybe you do this first thing in the morning, or maybe you take a mid-afternoon break. You also can use what's called the 2 feet, 1 breath technique. That is when before you enter a room, an office or an examination room or a research room or whatever, you stand in front of the door and you concentrate on your breathing for 1 breath, and you feel your feet on the ground. And that's another way to kind of ground you and help you focus on the moment. So let me share my screen again real briefly. Okay. So I want you to set one small, doable, reasonable goal for yourself. And I would love it if you would put it in the chat if you're willing. What is one thing you commit to doing over the next 2 weeks? Something we've just practiced or something that I've just named. And while you're typing, I just wanted to put this up so you have my contact information if you have any questions later. Also, my website has a lot of blog posts on it, and the most recent one is actually a mindfulness blog. So if there's anything that you want to read on there, I've got a lot of interesting blogs. Okay, who's going to share your goals? What is one small, reasonable, doable goal that you're going to practice over the next 2 weeks to bring more mindfulness into your everyday life? Eat my breakfast mindfully without checking email or social media. Eat 1 food or meal mindfully a day. Mindful walking and cleaning. The 2 feet, 1 breath exercise before walking through the door at work each day. I love that. Eat your afternoon snack mindfully. Focus on mindful eating or drinking once a day. Eat a snack mindfully. The 2 feet, 1 breath. I'm glad that was useful. I'm glad that you liked that idea. All right, anyone else want to share? Great. Well, I really appreciate your participation. Thank you all so much. Do you have any questions? Oh, there was one more. Spend lunchtime trying a different one each day. No one said, only one person said belly breathing. Anyone have any questions about anything we did? Any questions about mindfulness? How to do it, why you should do it? Good. Someone does belly breathing already every day. Awesome. No questions?
People are also welcome to put it in the chat. If you raise your hand, I can unmute you. So Rachel asks, am I doing it wrong if it stresses me out?
No, as I was saying before, breath and breathing is really powerful and a great technique for a lot of people, but some people become more anxious when they do breathing techniques. So you're not doing anything wrong. I'd encourage you to try it maybe 2 more times. So you've tried it like 3 times. Because maybe it was just like it's new, or it's kind of a weird environment. It's a webinar. Like there's reasons why maybe it stressed you out today just because of the environment. But if you try it a couple more times and it's not feeling helpful or calming or grounding or centering, then it's not for you. But maybe your mindful things are more active. Maybe you're going to take a mindful walk each day. Maybe you're going to do the present exercise. Maybe you're going to eat mindfully. Like these could be ways that you bring mindfulness into your life in a different way. So it's just finding what works for you. Someone said, when belly breathing, do you inhale through your nose or your mouth? Okay, you breathe through your nose. Always, 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 if it's at all possible. Now, sometimes we do exercises when we inhale through our nose and we exhale through our mouth, but hold on 1 second. Sorry to leave you again. This is a really awesome book I just read, all about breathing. Amazing. So if you have any interest in breathing or learning or reading more about breathing, this is it. He goes on and on and on and on in so many ways about how bad mouth breathing is for us. It's just not good in so many ways. So when you're doing your belly breathing, if it's at all possible, if you are able to breathe through your nose, do it all in and out through your nose. What I personally do is when I sit down to belly breathe, I do those first 3 breaths in through my nose and out through my mouth, just to sort of signal to myself that this is starting. I personally like that. You don't have to do that, but outside of like that, all the breathing should be through the nose. So that's a really important question. Thank you for asking that.
So I actually have a question, Heather, kind of related to the first one, but is there a difference in, so like doing the belly breathing where it's just quiet versus like a guided meditation app? Because at least for me, I've found that the guided meditation where there's someone talking and maybe there's some pauses, but they're like 10 seconds, that feels more relaxing to me than just sitting in quiet. Can you comment on any differences between those two?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think they serve different purposes or they work well at different times. I generally use belly breathing daily, but sometimes if my mind is really jumping around, or if I'm feeling more stressed, or I somehow just don't feel like putting in that effort, like the effort to belly breathe, I do a guided meditation. I do find that sometimes guided meditations make it easier to follow along or easier to relax, and they're just as valuable. So again, it's finding what works for you. And it's like, I use both. I use belly breathing and I use guided meditations. I use, just to mention, I use Insight Timer. It's a free app and they have tens of thousands of guided meditations on it, which I love. And then they also have like live meditations and yoga classes and all kinds of stuff. It's a really incredible app. So it's a really good question. It's finding what works for you, and maybe different things work at different times, or maybe you decide belly breathing's not for me, but guided meditations are, or maybe it's the other way around. So, so someone said, I like the Belly Bio app. It has lights for doing it at night and music after you reach a certain level. That's a great one. I haven't heard of that one. Anything else? Any other questions, comments, reactions? I will send Megan a 1-page handout just to give you some ideas and give you the intuitive eating article if you're interested in reading more about that. But thank you all so much. I really enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Heather, for presenting. And yes, feel free to reach out to Heather directly or to me with any questions. With me, you can ask me about this webinar or anything else about the program. We're here to help, whether you're a participant or an organizer. So yeah, great job today. Good job leaning in, taking the time for yourself to learn, and hope you all take at least one thing from this webinar. So. And I'll get this, Heather and I will get the recording processed in the next couple days. So if you had any colleagues that weren't able to join us live, that they can also watch it themselves. Awesome. Wonderful.
Thank you,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
I'm so glad you came.